My name is 𝘠𝘓𝑚 Patherya and I produce annual reports for a living. The story of my connection and engagement with CenturyPly boards started more than a decade ago when Mr. Bhajanka one day said that we want a good annual report. It must be a magazine. Why magazine? Because he said, if it's a magazine like annual report, people will read it. Otherwise, it's only finance and nobody will read. And that started the journey where we started positioning the company in the annual report, which is a conventional document, quite like a readable magazine. And today, I know I'm taking a pat on my own back, but I think the Century Annual Report is possibly one of the best designed annual reports, one of the most differently designed annual reports. And I would say, just like the brand of Century is something that is very classy, stands for the best design standards of the day, the annual report is no different. It stands for the best design standards of the day. I think when we work with Century, there are 2 or 3 things very clearly at play. We know it's a growth company. And when you associate with a growth company and you say that, okay, 10 years down the road, if India's wood panel sector grows this much, oh my God, Century is going to grow this much. The reason is Century is virtually debt-free. Virtually all their prospective investments are being made from net worth. And it's a great pleasure to associate with a company that's significantly enhancing value for stakeholders and at the cusp of enhancing that particular value in a disproportionately larger way. So that's number 1, the association with a value creating enterprise. Number 2, most of us creative professionals look for creative freedom. And that one element Century provides us with considerable. We may have arguments with the executives. We may disagree on subjects, but the creative freedom, the way to take an idea and write about it and take the same idea and design differently, I think that's the freedom and latitude the Century provides. The kind of freedom the Century gives its vendors to assume that they are Century. So in a lot of ways, when I fight with Century's executives or disagree, it's not that I am Trisys, that's a small issue, but to believe that I am Century and I'm fighting with Century's executive. That's a license that very few companies will give you. So we have a team, and for Century's annual report, we have not changed the team. My designer is Anjan. Anjan has been doing the Century annual report for years because he now understands not only what the company wants, he has begun to believe that he is Century. So Anjan, my other colleague is Nibras, and in the production team there is Vinay. I think 4 or 5 of us are a steady combination of batsman, bowler, spinner, wicketkeeper. We don't want to change that. I think they've understood the Century DNA. And to some extent, we also know the Century's annual report must never be designed as per the prevailing requirements of the day, but always to be positioned around the prevailing environment of tomorrow, that futuristicness. So this team has understood exactly that Century's annual report must always be around 2028 or 2029. So we may be doing the 2025 annual report, but for us, the report is already, in terms of visual treatment, at 2029. So if we are not breaking the mold, we are not doing something crazy, we are not disrupting, then it's no annual report. With other clients, I can't take the similar license. With Century, I can. I think this is one line, 𝘍 बेफिक्र, which doesn't only work from a product or a material perspective. It's a relationship line. That if you do your act right, if you do things aligned with the company's intent, if you do things that are going to take the company ahead, you don't need to worry about whether you're going to get paid, you're going to get paid on time, whether, I think those niggling relationship issues, you can just remove. And how this actually works through different stakeholders, and yet all the different stakeholders may end up telling you different things, but they still converge at those 2 words, 𝘍 बेफिक्र. I always keep this in mind when I'm working with Century, that there are various people that we work with within the organization, but that messaging, even though the content is different, the intent is the same. As a vendor who is distinct from a company that's selling plyboard, I think my take is that you'll always be given a fair deal. The relationship will always be one of integrity. So 𝘍 बेफिक्र is not something that they do only with their customers. They do it across the entire stakeholder ecosystem, which includes people like